Okay, we reached the bottom of this. The engine block is back from the machine shop. You can see the nice crisscross they did in there. It's even though the old one was not that bad. So what has to be done at this point is we have to measure it once again, just to make sure that there's nothing wrong with it, which I did. So we took the I took the telescopic gauge. I did measurement on. Let me show you. This is the plan here. So what I did, we don't want to go as crazy as it was at first. So what I did cylinder 1 is we're on the wrong side. So that would be like it now. This is the pulley side. So this is cylinder 1, 2, 3, so on. So this is the way I number the cylinders. So the game plan was to measure X dimension, which would be the mid distance. X would be along the line that goes all through all cylinders. So I measure X for all of those. Then I measured the Y. I measure on the top and at the bottom of the cylinders. Top would be about ½ inch, 3/4 of an inch from the top, and the bottom would be, if you look, it's not the same depth for both. So I would say from this depth, maybe 3/4 inch high. So I measure all of those, get an idea of the piston, the cylinders. There's about 3.0003, which is 0.00. There's 30 and a 3 gap from the measurement I made. So might be my measurements, it's possible, but still makes sense. So in the end, what I did is I measure also all the pistons. Pistons are pretty steady. This is the P you have there. So what I did is I decided to fit the pistons in the best cylinders in a way to get the better fit as possible. So this is the gap I have by setting it the way I plan it to do. So the tolerance limit is that one, so we're good. And so in cylinder 1 I put piston 3, in cylinder 2 I'll put piston 5, in cylinder 3 I'll put piston 1, cylinder 4 piston 4, cylinder 5 I put piston 2, and cylinder 6 piston 6. So this is the game plan. So what's left to be done, I have here a very bad surprise. There's a stripped thread, and that's kind of funny because normally when you got a stripped thread and you unbolt the screw, the bolt, the thread stays within the thread of the bolt. I had this news from the guy that did the machining of the Oversized. He says that when he washed it and he blew the air through it, the thread came out of there. So that's a very weird thing to me. There was no oiling, there was no nothing. So I'm gonna have to put an Helicoil on that hole. So this surface needs to be cleaned. It's being cleaned, but just make sure that with the rigid scraper that it's gonna be fine. The other, underneath the block, there's a groove for the sealing at the crankshaft split line. That groove's gonna have to be cleaned as well. So this is the task at hand for now. So you can see this is the thread that came out. Really kind of weird. As I said, that should have come out stuck to the boat. Very, very weird. That hole that got stripped is I'll pick it up later. That bolt here is on the transmission side and on the exhaust side. Yeah, I flipped again because it's easier for me to film on the reverse side, because this is cylinder 6 now, 5 and so on. So yeah, so I'm gonna have to do an Helicoil on that one. On scraping that surface, we have to be careful, because if there's gonna be a groove that we made, the groove is gonna be very hard for the head gasket to cover the gap, because as I explained, it's gonna be a very deep and a short distance, so there's a limit to what the gasket can provide as a sealing. There is also some razor blades that are made of plastic. I never tried those, but I ordered some. I'm not gonna have the patience to wait for those. I'll let you know how these works, and that might be a very good idea to scrape on that surface here where the gasket head gasket goes, the cylinder head gasket. So that could be a suggestion, so in order to be safe. Okay, turn the engine upside down to clean the groove here. It's a bit hard to reach, to tell you the truth. So I took this flat screwdriver, but it was too wide, so I grind this side of it just a little so that it fits well in the groove, so it makes a little scraper. The quality of the surface is not as important as is in the bottom of the groove. The main thing, we don't want to scratch it for no reason, but if there's a little scratch or if it's not that flat, it's not that important. What's important is when we're going to shoot the seal from the nozzle here, it's going to flow through the groove. So the groove has to be free of any debris, so that's what I'm working on. So as you can tell, it's a very nice quality groove compared to here. It's a bit of this is like the white that the rusted aluminum is doing, but here, if you look here, there's some little crumbs of the old previous sealing. If you look all around like this is going to be scraped with the screwdriver easily. Just doing like that. It's hard when you're not fully at it. And the top of the surface here, this and this, is gonna be scraped and cleaned with the same rigid scraper with the razor blade that I use for all the other thing around. So that's the actual task at hand. And this nozzle, I cleaned the other, but it's gonna be with the screwdriver going gently around. Try not to damage too much the surface. It's coming quite easily. It's coming out with a big chunk, so it's not that difficult. Okay, so here we got a little it's kind of a bump. Maybe they knocked it a bit when just not much, but anyway, this is it's a bump that is over, so that's gonna have to be filed down. But the way to do so is you take a smooth file and you make sure like to have an angle like that, because we don't want to touch that surface. We just want to get rid of the edge. It's a bit hard to see, but yeah, you can tell here a bit. So that's what it is. Smooth file, little angle, just smoothly take it off. This engine block is now ready. The only thing left to be done after that would be to flip it the other way around, upside down, and work for that helicoil thing. After that, it's going to be a matter of just cleaning it very thoroughly. We need to clean all the little holes, make sure there's no debris there, because these are oil passages, so this got all to be cleaned with air afterward. So that's it. Okay, so now we're at the helicoil step. So the idea is that this kit doesn't have a drill in it, but it says to you what drill size it is. So I'm gonna have to drill 23/64 of an inch. So this is the drill right there. Okay, so first step is to know what is the size, the depth of the hole. So we put something in there, put the nail. So we're gonna measure that length, and that's the length that we can go maximum. We cannot go further than that. So we can see that the depth of the hole is about 2.5 inches. It's written here 2, almost 5. It's about 20 shorter than it. So we will aim for that 2.5. So that's it. So we're gonna put a tape at 2.5 inch, so we know up to where we can drill. It's going to be a good reference, a good visual. Double checking. It's about it. So the idea when we drill this thing is we got to make sure that we're straight like that and straight like that. We got to check both angles. Should be quite easy because there's already a hole in there. So we take our time. The first hole is bigger, so it goes easy. The reason why we don't want to get deeper than that is because the block is a complex component. There's lots of holes, there's lots of things. If we go deeper than this hole, we might end up into another holes in where maybe for some coolant or oil or whatever. So definitely we want to stay away from that. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna rotate the engine down so we can shake the chips downward. Let's do this. And we can finish with the air blast. Just gonna take start the compressor and put some air in there just to remove all the crap. So same thing with the tap that goes with the helicoil. So we're marking the 2.5 inch with a marker here, so when I go I can have a reference point where I'm at the bottom of this hole. Okay, so while drilling here, the referral the hole is bigger at the top than it was with the drill. So you look around to make sure that the drill is center with the hole. This is how you know that you're gonna drill straight. One other thing that I did but I didn't say, there were still a bit left of these thread in the hole. So what I did first, I measured the bottom, the full depth of the hole, and I tried to measure also with the caliper. There's a rod that goes underneath. I measure like the top of the thread, and the difference is 1.5 inches. So I know I got 1.5 inches worth of thread. So when I'm gonna put the helicoil, and I need to make sure I got 1.5 inches long of the helicoils. So that's the thing also. So now it's a matter of doing the tap. You need one of these. Ideally, if you don't have one of these with another tap set, you can always try with a Westcott, but these works of course better because you got your balance. You have the two hands and you can make sure that it's gonna, when you turn, it's not gonna try to flip it. So at first I like to start this thing with being straight, perpendicular, by hand, I mean, by the time it bites to it. So now it's really a matter of making really sure that we're perpendicular that angle and that angle. So I start these by going slowly, very slowly like that, and trying to look from side to side, making sure I'm perpendicular. As I go in, you turn back a bit to break the aluminum chips as you go. You want to take your time, because if you miss that one, then you're in big doo-doo. This is pretty good. So now it's just a matter of putting a bit of oil in there. It's a matter of protecting the tool so it keeps it sharp. And always check once more, but it should be straight. Yeah, when you're well started, makes your life easier. We might encounter some chips along the way, as it's a very deep hole, so you might have to get all the way out and just blast it with air to empty this hole from the chips. Of course, when you do so, you want to protect your eyes. Maybe you put also a rag on top of the hole as you blast it. Also, when trying to figure out the length of the thread, if the hole was not that good enough, we can always check with other holes that are the same. These holes are bigger because they're bigger bolts, but these here at the far end, this one and this one, they're the same. This one seems bigger because there's a pin, locating pin, that goes on top to locate the cylinder head. Same thing here. This one and this one are the same, but this looks bigger because there's a pin that goes in here for the cylinder head, locating the cylinder head. So it's starting to be a bit tougher now because at the beginning the hole was a bit bigger, as it was like a clearance for the boat. So we just want to take more time to do it. This one feels like it's going straight to China. It's a never-ending. It's very deep. But when you look at the boats, you understand why. If you remember, they're very long. So now we're going all the way back up to clean this because it starts to get a bit of resistance. So once we're getting close to the end, we're going to remove this and finish by hand. So we make sure not to strip the first few threads. It's almost like a bolt, but keep in mind it's sharp. So if like you're going sideways or anything, it can damage. If you go fast. If you don't go fast, I doubt you'll be strong enough to just like break it. If it feels like it wants to jam, you go back and forth slowly, making sure you clear it. Okay, so now it's a matter of just spraying the air through it and cleaning it. Just throwing it back in. Start with your finger. Once you got maybe 4 or 5 turns, good enough, you just go back with the handle and keep going with it all the way down. Put some oil in there. There we go. Eventually we're gonna reach the bottom where we were up to. Here we go. Yeah, it looks it's still straight, you can see, because the gap between the tap and the rest of the hole is pretty straight. It's even all around, so that tells us that now there's oil, but when the oil is gonna go down, you'll see it's pretty even all around, so we know that we don't want to go too fast. Now we want to have a feel, because the last thing we want to do is to break the tap in the hole. Okay, to get rid of the chips at the bottom when you cannot reach it with the hairspray nozzle, you take your drill, take your time to go by hand. You just turn it at the bottom. It's gonna act like a scoop and pick it all up. Most of it, at least. You can check. I did it a couple of times. There's just a bit left. Okay, so the idea is we need to now put the helicoil on that tool here. The idea is to go and screw it in place. I figured out we're gonna need 3 of those. So this one's got to go all the way to the bottom. squeaking sound, just like nails on the blackboard. It's a witch hunt. You gotta be careful toward the end. I cleaned the hole also with some brake cleaner, so that's why it's dry like that. Let's drink beer at the same time. Oh, that looks like we're at the end of it. So now we're going to remove this. Okay. Now we're gonna get ready to insert the second one. That one though, we're gonna have to break it. There's like a, it's like pre-broken here. I don't know if you can see it. There's like a notch. Yeah, you can see where it's shiny. It's like a notch. Okay. It's a good practice to, when you got a burr on the surface where you make the tap, it's a good practice to, normally we should have done that before doing the tap, but just to take the burr out by hand with a 45 degree, 90 degree hand mill, countersink tool. This is where the pin is. So we're going to use a punch and a hammer to just bang it down. That's it, get a magnet inside. The magnet is too big, so we're just going to rotate the engine upside down, so the pin's going to fall down. I put 3 of those back to back because they're about ½ inch long each, and they needed to have 1.5 inches of thread. Okay, so just a final check for this hole with the Helicoil in there. So I'm gonna take there's just the same hole here. So I'm gonna take the bolt that is normally going in these holes. Just gonna go all the way down till it reaches the threads. Putting my nail on it and making sure I got same or better as a depth for the thread. So I'm gonna take this measurement again, the other side. So it really is about the same thing, more or less one thread, so that's a go. So what I'm up to now is I want to go and look around for all the holes, looking in the holes for dirt or anything, looking around, cleaning a final cleanup. All these holes here, these holes in the groove for the coolant, all around, making sure nothing is wrong in there. If there is, just wash it with either a rag or maybe some brake cleaner. I'm definitely gonna use brake cleaner on the surfaces where you have the gasket that's gonna come here and here. Also on the sides where there's gonna be the crankshaft seals here inside of there. I want to use some brake cleaner upside down, flip this thing upside down the block, turn it, clean also underneath with brake cleaner these surfaces here for the turbos. So this is the final move around and final cleaning, and then we start to put this thing back up together. Okay, looking at the 4 holes, in fact the 4 with the smallest bolts. Look at this one and look at this one, as well as this one that's got the helicoils, and this one. This one seems to be fine, but the others are not good at all. If you look in that one in the end here, I found this the thread is broken, and when I use a pick, when I try to move inside, I can see it's moving. This is not the proper light. I got a small light that I made to go down in the holes to look. It's gonna be hard to show you, but when you use a pick and you kind of go, this is not the thread, this is the hole, but just to show you, you go here and you try to pull it, you can see it's pulling. So this is obviously not right, so I'm gonna have to make helicoils in these two holes also. If you look at this one here, I was able to you see I was able to move the thread in there. This is not some magical tricks. Hold on, let me try to show you. Yeah, you can tell it's not right at all. So I'm gonna drill oversize and make these holes with helicoils. I'm gonna have to recheck the depth. Remember, I said I'm gonna check with the hole, the depth for the to see if it's deep enough. Obviously, that was pointless because it's not the right. The threads were not fine. If I take this here, if I take the boat and I go here to see where the threads are starting, and I check in this one here, so you can tell it's right. The depth of the helicoils is good, so that's a good thing. But I got two more to do now, so gonna be on that, and then washing and cleaning the blocks gonna be done right after that. So inspecting the grooves with this little flashlight works magic. You just go around with it and you can see clearly if you got stuff or not. So this is basically it's actually a very good idea. I made myself. This is like you go to electronic hardware kind of store. This is a container to put like a battery holder that comes with a switch, and I just asked them for the smallest and brightest light that they have. Just weld it together with two wires and just tape it all along. Very useful. So I recommend that. Okay, so what we're doing now is in the end I did the four holes in the corner here, this one, and the other way here and here. These are the smallest diameter bolt for the cylinder head to be clamped on the block. I got 3 out of 4 that were stripped, so I said I'm gonna do the fourth one, not to get any surprise on the long run. Or you know, you assemble the whole thing and then you get this surprise that it's not right, so just did it. So now what I'm doing is I check all the holes with my little flashlight to check in the holes. Everything seems to be good.